Muy buenos días, señoras y señores. Invitamos a los presentes a tomar las ubicaciones correspondientes. Ya dentro de instantes, esta importante ceremonia de firma de acuerdo de asociación entre el Mercosur y la Unión Europea.
Welcome, everyone. We encourage you to take a seat because in a few minutes we will start with this very important event of the signing of the partnership agreement between the European Union and the Southern Common Market.
Los aplausos, señoras y señores, para Marcelo Rojas, excepcional arpista paraguayo, amenizando los momentos previos de esta ceremonia de firma del acuerdo de asociación entre el Mercosur y la Unión Europea. Gran Teatro José Asunción Flores del Banco Central del Paraguay.
Round of applause for Marcelo Rojas, a great Paraguayan harp player, who welcomed us to the signing of the partnership agreement between Mercosur and the European Union.
Señoras y señores, les damos la cordial bienvenida al Gran Teatro José Asunción Flores del Banco Central del Paraguay. Cumplimos en informar que la sala se encuentra equipada con sistemas de detección de incendio de alta tecnología. Además, para casos de emergencia, se cuentan con protocolos establecidos para una rápida y segura evacuación, las que serán coordinadas por personal especializado de la institución y del Cuerpo de Bomberos Voluntarios del Paraguay, acorde a normas de seguridad. El Gran Teatro posee salidas de emergencias debidamente señalizadas en platea baja y platea alta. Platea baja cuenta con 4 salidas, 2 a la derecha y 2 a la izquierda. Además, se pueden utilizar las mangas de acceso para una pronta evacuación. Platea alta cuenta con una salida de emergencia. También pueden ser utilizadas las mangas de acceso para la evacuación. En todos los casos, seguir las instrucciones brindadas por el personal de seguridad. Para casos de cortes de energía suministrada por el propio servicio de red, el complejo cuenta con su generador de energía, garantizando la continuidad del servicio. Por su atención, muchas gracias.
Invitamos a los presentes, por favor. Dentro de instantes, inicio de la ceremonia de firma del acuerdo de asociación entre el Mercosur y la Unión Europea.
In a few more minutes, we will start the official ceremony of the signing of the partnership agreement between Mercosur and the European Union.
Señoras, señores, muy buenas tardes. Nos ponemos de pie para dar la bienvenida a los presidentes y jefes de delegación de estados parte del Mercosur y la Unión Europea.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. May I kindly invite you to rise. Please stand for the arrival of the presidents and heads of delegations of the states parties of the Southern Common Market and the European Union.
Para esta ceremonia de firma de acuerdo de asociación entre el Mercosur y la Unión Europea. Asunción, República del Paraguay.
In Asunción, Republic of Paraguay, we are gathering for the partnership agreement between the Southern Common Market and the Argentine Republic, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, and the European Union.
Recibimos con un fuerte aplauso, señoras y señores, al presidente de la República de Panamá, excelentísimo señor José Mulino.
Panama. No.
Excelentísimo señor presidente del Estado Plurinacional de Bolivia, señor Rodrigo Paz.
Bolivia.
Presidente del Consejo Europeo, señor Antonio Costa.
European Council.
Señora Presidenta de la Comisión Europea, señora Ursula von der Leyen.
European Commission.
Excelentísimo señor Presidente de la República del Paraguay, Santiago Peña Palacios.
Paraguay.
Señor Presidente de la República Argentina, señor Javier Milei.
Argentina.
Señor Presidente de la República Oriental del Uruguay, excelentísimo señor Yamandú Orsi.
Uruguay.
Señor Ministro de Relaciones Exteriores de la República Federativa del Brasil, Su Excelencia Mauro Vieira.
And finally, Brazil.
Pueden tomar asiento, por favor. Muchas gracias.
Please have a seat. Thank you.
Gran Teatro José Asunción Flores del Banco Central del Paraguay. Ceremonia de firma de acuerdo de asociación entre el Mercosur y la Unión Europea.
We're in the theater called José Asunción Flores of the Central Bank of Paraguay for the signature of the partnership agreement between the Mercosur and the European Union.
Se destaca la presencia de señores poderes del Estado, expresidentes de la República, parlamentarios, gobernadores, autoridades eclesiásticas, ministros del Poder Ejecutivo, presidentes, directores de entes, comandantes de las fuerzas públicas, ilustres visitantes, excelencias, señoras y señores.
Your Excellencies, Presidents, Ministers of Foreign Affairs of the states parties, of all the branches of the government, Presidents, Directors of Public Institutions, and Commanders of the Public Security Forces.
A continuación, en esta ceremonia de firma de acuerdo de asociación entre el Mercosur y la Unión Europea, las palabras del señor Presidente de la República del Paraguay, excelentísimo señor Santiago Peña Palacios.
Now the words of the President of Paraguay, Santiago Peña Palacios.
Señores presidentes de los estados partes del Mercosur, querido amigo Javier.
President Javier Milei.
And President of Uruguay, I greet the President of the Republic of Brazil at a distance, Mr. Ignacio Lula da Silva. I am sure that he is following along on television. I greet the presidents of the Associated Nations and later full members of the Mercosur, President Rodrigo Paz of Bolivia, Mr. José Raúl Molino, Panama, welcome. Madam President of the European Commission, Mr. President of the European Council, Mr. Commissioner of European Trade, ladies and gentlemen. With great joy, I welcome twice warmly. Warmly because of the high temperatures of Paraguayan summers, but also for the intensity of the warmth of our people, to our illustrious visitors, to this historical, again, I underscore historical signature of the agreement of the partnership of Mercosur and EU, which will be celebrated thanks to the strong symbolic strength of Argentina here in Asunción. Asunción is a city that with all justice was called in the old times, in the colonial period, as the mother of cities. because of the great amount of other cities that were founded from the old wooden fort built in 1537 in a beautiful bay of the Paraguay River, just a few kilometers away from where we are now. Shortly before we turned 150 years, Asunción once again was the center of integration of South America, when in an unforgettable March 26 of 1991, we signed the agreement of Asunción.
Documento que se inspira
This document that was proudly signed in that extraordinary experiment and an example of taking as an example the European Economic Community. The Mercosur was created, and it's short of turning 35 years. Asunción was created as a nexus of integration, and it became one again to see the birth of Mercosur. Therefore, it's poetic justice that today it still has the same mission when it brings us together this morning to bear witness to a historical moment, which is the signature of the partnership agreement between Mercosur and the European Union. It would seem to be that that words have lost value lately, and we use words lightly, but today it's not the case. Now we are before a historical moment that we've long waited for, a day that is a milestone when it brings together two of the regions and markets of most importance of the world, Europe and South America. Welcome to this birthplace of integration, to witness a historical milestone, the signature of an agreement that shows that dialogue, cooperation, and brotherhood and sisterhood is the only way. I don't know if many of you know, but Paraguay we were founded on the same Guarani nation that occupied a great part of the national territory, which is what today is Mercosur. So on this beautiful culture, we proudly stand, and a large part of our civilization is on the same territory. Part of the Guarani legacy was a myth of creation, the Aigura Pita. This means the baseline of human language. The Guarani natives saw language as the baseline of humanity itself. According to this myth, the first thing that was created by the author of the universe, or the Big Father, was the human language. When it did so, we brought light to the darkness. Poetic language with which the great anthropologist, the Australian Paraguayan anthropologist Leon Cadogan, translated the original Guarani language, saying, the first fog, that there was the only thing that existed before humankind and the universe. This myth is powerful and full of truth. There's great reason in our wise forefathers for whom language and communication and dialogue are in the base of creation, of what makes us really human. Because without this capacity of having a language and of having dialogue, we would not be humans. We would be simple beasts or animals. Well, I think that this agreement that will be signed today is also based a little bit on this myth. Because language, communication, dialogue, all of this makes us overcome the first fog that used to bring us apart. We know this was a very long road. It took us over 25 years to overcome the huge hurdles and the moments where we seemed stuck, and when there were some things that we thought we couldn't overcome. But using plasticity, using intelligence, the intelligence of Augusto Roa Bastos mentioned, the Paraguayan author, we were practical, we were flexible, and we were able to overcome the situational differences and the interests, the greedy interest, in order to find the right balance. With this, we have opened up a huge potential to make this agreement into a key motor of the economic growth. At the same time, that we were able to see the sensitivities and take into account all the sensitivities of every part. Now we can look back on those hard years and say common language has overcome. The Uberaputa, the one that joins our stories together of Europe and South America, so intimately joined throughout the centuries. The magnitude of this common language is evident. Mercosur and the European Union represent about 800 million people. That's the population, and they concentrated GDP, which is above $25 billion. This agreement is the largest agreement negotiated by Mercosur and one of the most relevant, celebrated by the EU. In a global scenario that is marked by tension, this step sends a clear signal in favor of international trade as a factor for cooperation and growth. As pro tempore president of Mercosur, and on behalf of all of the nations that make up this bloc, Paraguay takes on this result as an achievement of regional diplomacy and as an affirmation of our integrative vocation. I cannot not mention a great and beloved person who sadly is not here today, without whom we would have made it to this day. I mean President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva. Lula was one of the main encouragers of this process. In his name, I greet everyone who placed their bets on the 21st century and leaving behind conflict and division, which marked our continent in the two past centuries. I also must mention the leadership, the intuitive and intelligent leadership of our dear Ursula von der Leyen, who did so much so that this ship would not sink and that it could get to a good destination. Dear friends, from Mercosur, we want this agreement to benefit the millions of citizens of Europe and South America that starting the implementation, will see substantial improvements. The common good must always lead governments, and those of Mercosur and European Union are no exception. Nonetheless, we should not fall into the mistake of pleasing ourselves. The reality is that we have lost a lot of time to make it here, and we could have reached a better agreement. We could have done more. We could have gotten more benefits for our people, for our nations. Therefore, today I also want to put out a challenge. Let's look to the future with more courage, with bravery, and let's deepen our union even more, a union that can be more perfect. In a complex world, it's unstable, it's dangerous, in which the old certainties stumble upon our eyes. Europe and South America must unite to show a different path. We need more of this visionary leadership that Jean Monnet, the Adenauers, and the Gasparis had, who left behind the old hatred and short-term and greed and built a bright future. We need a future that will gather the best of the European culture with the best of the culture of South America to generate a new synthesis. As a matter of fact, in a far brilliant past, in the same land of them that is now Mercosur, the best of European civilization and the indigenous people met and fused to create what Robert Cameron Green mentioned or called paradise on earth, the Arcadia of the mythical Jesuit missions. There, Europeans and Americans showed the glorious heights of the human spirit that we can reach only if we work together. Let's work together to build a new European and American brotherhood built on a common history and a future of endless opportunities. Let's not be shy. Let's not be fearful. Let's bet on dialogue and cooperation and a shining common future in which Europe and the Mercosur are not just mere spectators, but main players of the history of humankind. In this very important date, I want to welcome not only on behalf of the noble country of Paraguay to this cradle of integration, but I also want to celebrate the genuine conquest that is the signing of this agreement. Dear friends, with a common language of dialogue, we have reached an understanding that has left behind the fog of the unilaterals, of mistrust, of greed, and separation, to open the windows to a better future, a future that I am sure will be bright. The European Union and Mercosur working together will be able to show to the rest of the world that the road to better days for our people is paved by what we celebrate today. More integration, more cooperation, more fraternity, and above all, more humanity. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the words of Their Excellency, the President of the Republic of Paraguay and pro tempore President of the Mercosur, Santiago Palacios. This is the ceremony for the signing of the partnership between Mercosur and the European Union. Now we have the word from the European Union President.
The words of Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen.
The translation. What a day indeed, President Peña, dear Santiago, President Milei, President Orsi, President Paz, President Molino, my dear friend President Costa, Minister Vieira, dear Mauro, honorable members of Parliament, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's such an honor to be here with you in beautiful Asunción, in the heart of Latin America, and in the very room where Mercosur's founding treaty was signed. This place carries history. It reminds us of a moment when nations in Latin America choose cooperation over division. They rejected rivalry and reaffirmed democracy. And they brought peoples together across borders and rivers. And I must say, as a European, I recognize in that choice something familiar, and I deeply respect the ambition and the courage it required. So my first message is very simple for having us here in this historic room. Thank you for bringing us together and hosting us in this historic setting. Agulla, Paraguay. But this moment belongs to all the Mercosur nations. Therefore, from the bottom of my heart, I also say thank you to Argentina. Thank you to Brazil. Thank you to Uruguay. And of course, again, thank you to Paraguay, because this moment is not only about bringing countries closer together, but about connecting continents. And each one of the Mercosur countries worked hard for this result. So today in this room, we are signing an important document. It is basically the symbol of a new partnership between Mercosur and Europe. And this deal has been in the making since 25 years. Many hands have worked tirelessly. It has survived changes of government. It has survived a great many meetings. And we all know it took a final push right to the last moment to bring all this together here today. We are creating the largest free trade zone in the world. We are creating a market of 700 million people, and a GDP of almost 20% of the global GDP is being traded here. This is phenomenal. And this agreement sends a very strong message to the world. It reflects a clear and deliberate choice. We choose fair trade over tariffs. We choose a productive, long-term partnership over isolation. And above all, we intend to deliver real and tangible benefits to our people and our businesses. And let me highlight 3 points. First, the economic benefits of this partnership. They are crystal clear. Already today, Europe is the second largest trading partner in Mercosur. Europe is the biggest foreign investor in the region. It's such a wonderful region, so there's a good reason for it. And this deal will remove tariffs and other barriers to trade. It will open up public procurement. It will provide a clear, rules-based framework to encourage investment and trade to flow. And this will greatly benefit companies on both sides. This includes, for example, the 60,000 European companies. Half of them, 30,000, are small and medium companies that are already exporting to this fantastic region. So this will create, on both sides, jobs, opportunities, and prosperity. This is outstanding. And my second point, I would like to highlight how this agreement will support our ambitions to protect our home, our nature. There's a strong chapter on trade and sustainable development. We are committing to help each other to make the transition to climate neutrality. Europe will gain improved access to the raw materials we need for our transition, and European investment will support the Mercosur countries in their transition. This is how trade should be. Partners with complementary strength are supporting each other, and our citizens can be sure that we have the interests of their children and grandchildren high on our agenda. And my third point is the geopolitical importance of this agreement cannot be overstated. We are creating a platform to work on a range of global issues, from protecting our precious natural environment to proposing much more dynamic and unleashing our competitiveness, to the reform of global institutions. We will join forces like never before, because we believe that this is the best way to make our people and our countries prosper. And when two regions like ours speak with one voice on global issues, the world will be listening. Ladies and gentlemen, I have indeed also been reading about the great Paraguayan author and poet Augusto Roa Bastos. He spent years of his life in Europe, in the French city of Toulouse. Not only did he build a family there, he also taught Latin American literature and the Guarani language to enthusiastic European students. But I think his story is the story of so many people, not just here in Paraguay, but in Argentina, in Brazil, in Uruguay, and all across Europe. People who traveled across the ocean, loved our two continents, and made both of them stronger. The ties between Mercosur and Europe run deep. We share cultures, a lot of history, fantastic values, hopes and fears and determination, and a similar path of regional integration. Today we build on this with a partnership that reflects the true breadth and depth of our relations. We are turning our friendship into greater strength for Mercosur and Europe alike. So let me thank you once again for your hospitality, and long live the friendship Europe-Mercosur. Muchas gracias.
De esta forma, señoras y señores, las palabras de la presidenta de la Comisión Europea, señora Ursula von der Leyen. A continuación, señoras y señores, las palabras del...
Next, ladies and gentlemen, the words of the President of Argentina, Javier Milei.
The words of the President of the Republic of Argentina, Mr. Javier Milei.
Good morning, everyone. Dear Mr. President of the Republic of Paraguay, my very dear friend Santiago Peña, dear Mr. President of the plurinational state of Bolivia, Rodrigo Paz Pereira, Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uruguay, Yamandu Orsi, dear Mr. President of the Republic of Panama, Jose Molino Quintero, dear Madam President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, dear Mr. President of the European Council, Mr. Antonio Costa, and dear Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Brazil, Mauro Vieira. I would like to begin by especially thanking my friend, the President of the Republic of Paraguay, for having convened this meeting of Mercosur and for hosting us in Asunción, the very city that saw the birth of the bloc in 1991. Today, we come together around a major political and economic milestone for all members of this bloc and probably for the world as a whole. After 25 lengthy years of negotiations, we finally signed the free trade agreement between Mercosur and the EU, probably the greatest achievement of Mercosur since its creation, and the result of a strategic decision which Argentina also helped boost with determination during its pro-tempore presidency last year. This led to shaping an idea which was to have more open, flexible and predictable as well as dynamic trade integration as embodied by this agreement. And in this vein, I would also like to acknowledge the European leadership which made this outcome possible. Especially, I would like to recognize the President of the Council of Ministers of Italy, my friend Giorgia Meloni. Her commitment and support were decisive in order for this agreement to come to fruition today. But let me insist on a point. It is crucial that during the implementation stage, the spirit of what has been negotiated should be preserved. Mechanisms that could restrict access, like quota, safeguards, or countervailing measures, would significantly reduce the economic impact of the deal and would go against its essential objective. Our parliaments should make sure that this does not happen. The 25 years invested require that we rise to the occasion in this final stage. As a prophet of dystopian future, Argentina understands firsthand that isolation and protectionism based on rhetoric rather than on results are the main culprits of economic stagnation and the increase in poverty. Our administration was elected because it chose the opposite model, that of freedom. This is why Argentina will not stop at this agreement and invites the members of this bloc to go even further. The world is moving towards more dynamic negotiation frameworks. We need to be aware of this and move in the same direction. rethinking instruments, speeding up processes, and adapting negotiation frameworks to the speed of the global economy is a necessity, not just a choice. And in that spirit, Argentina will continue to foster new trade initiatives with all partners sharing a vision of openness, market economy, and freedom. Along with the conclusion of the framework trade and investment agreement with the United States and in view of the progress in the agreement with Panama, we'll continue to consolidate negotiations with the bloc, including El Salvador, the Dominican Republic, and Ecuador. We are also decisively moving forward towards the conclusion of negotiations with the United Arab Emirates, seeking to expand our presence in Europe in high potential markets like Vietnam, India, and Indonesia. Also, we continue negotiations relaunched with Canada and will explore new opportunities for agreements based on the interest expressed by Japan in order to expand trade. This movement towards freedom and trade is a foundation of any true regional integration, because where institutions are eroded, the will of the people is overlooked, and human rights are violated, the result will always be the same: isolation, impoverishment, and the loss of freedom. The situation Venezuela is going through is a clear and painful testimony to this reality. This is why we value the decision and determination shown by the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and by his administration in the context of all actions undertaken in Venezuela, which led to the capture of the narco-terrorist dictator Nicolas Maduro. We also continue to demand the release of Argentine citizen Nahuel Gallo, as well as the freedom of all Argentine political detainees and all political detainees who have been arbitrarily arrested and detained by the regime in open violation of human rights. Freedom is not just an empty slogan or an abstract notion. It's a political and economic alternative, a tangible one in the face of a reality that can
We're very close to making the dream come true, the common dream in which we started 25 years ago. We want to strengthen the political and economic ties even further in our regions to create the largest free trade zone of the world. A market that will have over 700 million consumers and that will generate huge opportunities for our companies and our people, with more accessible goods, more investment, more employment, and a wider market. If 25 years ago we saw clearly the importance of the association of our regions, today it's even more evident that the relevance goes far beyond the economic realm. It goes even far beyond the numbers, even though they're huge and impressive. Because with this agreement, we send a clear message to the world. A message of defense of free trade based on rules, of multilateralism and international law as a base for the relations among the nations and regions. This agreement is a decisive door to open and exchange and cooperate, instead of isolation, unilateralism, and the use of trade as a geopolitical weapon. Therefore, maybe this agreement is a bit late, but it's here at the best time. We hope we don't want to create spheres of influence, but we want to create spheres of prosperity that is shared based on trust, cooperation, respect, sovereignty of our democracies. We do not want to dominate or impose, but promote and reinforce the ties amongst our citizens and our companies to create wealth in a way that is sustainable, protecting the environment and the labor rights. We do not want to generate dependency. We want to create networks of trade, networks of rules, networks of trust. While some raise barriers and others violate the norms of legal competition, we build bridges and we pact agreements because we believe in free trade that can generate wealth, employment, and stability. For all of this, I'm convinced that this agreement will help both of us to navigate a geopolitical area that is more and more turbulent, and we will be able to do without renouncing our values. The agreement with Mercosur is a milestone within the decisive the European to open of the markets and the diversification of value chains and the reduction on other parties in this effort. And America is natural to us, as we have affirmed in the recent summit. Because there were strong face common to protection of liberty, and respect for international law and in the scale, it's in the message that we give out today. For Uruguay, this agreement aspires a key aspiration of its international insertion. It's a state policy sustained for over 25 years by all of the presidents, even in the opposition of parties, and by all of the political parties and people of Uruguay. The European Union is today, for Uruguay, our third partner in assets and the second destination market of exports for global services, and the main origin of foreign direct investment. This association for Uruguay will imply growth of 1.5 of the GDP and an increase of exports by 4%, and an increase in employment of 0.5%. These numbers show a clear determination that for countries with a scale like ours, to be part of the world is indispensable for development. Now we can say that for Uruguay, it was worth it. It was worth to have the clear conviction that Mercosur was the road to progress. It was and it is the road to progress. And we cannot deny that this agreement also challenges Mercosur. It invites us to modernize our foreign agenda and to consolidate regional integration as a platform to go out even further into the world. This does not weaken us. It makes us stronger. In this road, sustainability is a key axis. Uruguay has shown that growth and caring for the environment can walk together. Reducing emissions. Reducing emissions through carbon capture and an energy grid with over 98% of renewable sources and measurable environmental commitments. For us, to be sustainable is to be predictable, and to be predictable is to be trustworthy. This agreement also strengthens political dialogue based on democracy and human rights. And it's a platform to cooperate where there are threats that know no borders. Transnational crimes, drug trafficking, asset laundering, money laundering, all types of aggression contrary to international law. Uruguay believes in agreements. It believes in rules. It believes in the concept of consensus, among others, as a method. And it is convinced that this agreement is a call to the democracies of the world to show that they are the true vehicle to improve the lives of people. Why historical agreements? We don't remember historical moments by the day they were signed, these agreements, but for everything that can be built upon. Thank you very much.
The words of the President of the Oriental Republic of Uruguay, Excellency Yamandu Orsi.
These were the words of the President of the Oriental Republic of Uruguay, Mr. Yamandu Orsi.
A continuación, las palabras del presidente del Estado Plurinacional de Bolivia,
Next,
excelentísimo señor
the remarks by the President of the
Next, the
Plurinational
words of the plurinational state
State
of
of Bolivia,
Bolivia,
His Excellency Rodrigo Paz. Good afternoon. With all the friendship and respect that I have for Paraguay, please a great applause to my friend Santiago Peña and to Paraguay, because I share a lot of friends, and to all the Paraguayan population. Welcome to the President of the European Commission, Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen. Welcome to the Council of the President of the European Council, Mr. Antonio Costa. Welcome to the President of the Argentine Republic, Javier Milei. Welcome to the President of the Oriental Republic of Uruguay, Yamandu Orsi. Welcome to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Federated Republic of Brazil, His Excellency Mauro Vieira, and warm greetings to the President Lula. And I would like to appreciate other countries for the years of the exiles before Bolivia returns to the democracy. To the great Panama, you are in my heart always. Thank you very much.
Also, I want to take advantage and greet the Venezuelan people. I want to express all my solidarity, everything for democracy, nothing outside democracy. And Bolivia stands with the people of Venezuela. In 1989, when I was younger, I was able to share sometimes some moments of history, of South American history, because the President Sarney, President Menem, and President Rodriguez of Paraguay, as well as the President of the IDB, Enrique Iglesias, were all staying in Bolivia in the Embassy of Brazil before President Jaime Paz Zamora took office. They sat to talk about navigability of the Paraguay River. And they started to speak about the destination of the hydroway, the destination of our nations, and how we should bring together a new logic of coordination, dialogue, trust to lead prosperity in these nations, or in these nations that were there in that embassy of Brazil in Bolivia. The Las Leñas Agreement from 1992 came afterwards. We signed the free navigation, and there's the Paraguay River and the Paraná rivers were mentioned, part of what has to do with us and the Cuenca del Plata Basin, right in front of my home in Lajas. That's where the Guadalquivir River starts. Then it turns into the Bermejo River, and it ends in the River Plate. And we Bolivians, we were not part of that constitution, that initial constitution of what should have been Mercosur, when we were part of the understanding that the hydroways were a very important part of all of this. Starting this, what we understand now, and in the this is my ninth week of government. We have, after 20 years, we are back. Just to provide you with some information, 2024 foreign investment in Bolivia didn't surpass $22 million, and last year it was $140 million. That was the success of the vision, the pseudo-ideological vision of socialism and the vision of development of socialism in my country. Not to grow or isolate ourselves from the world, not to have just to have a larger role in something as important as the condition of being part of Mercosur. We, Mercosur, we are part of a continent that crosses the whole globe. We're the only ones in the world that from north to south, from the North Pole to the southernmost tip of the Patagonia, we are the only continent in the world that crosses the whole globe, and that is power. And that we should use in a good way to the development of our nations. Within this continent now is Mercosur, generating actions that are huge and that will create change in the world. This relation with Europe, and we have to understand it in the best way possible, and we will soon become a part, because when I was a senator in my country, I was one of the legislative people in the legislature fighting for the Mercosur law to be approved and for Bolivia to be part of the Mercosur. And now as president, we will do everything in our hands so that we can be full members. Bolivia is present in the history of Mercosur, but also in the history of Europe for different reasons. but now historical reasons, and now our first desire is to break the isolation that we were in during the last 20 years. Last year was the bicentennial, that was 200 years of our independence as Bolivia, and there was not a single president from the border nations present on the most significant day of our anniversary. We don't want that to ever happen again among sister and brother nations. Never again may ideology and the lack of dialogue or trust, those we were born together, we will always be we will stick together and we will grow together. And in Bolivia we will not repeat what happened last year. We're working with the truth. It's tough. We just removed grants to hydrocarbons since the 70s. Never before had they dared to remove all this money as a lie established in our economy. Now, 2 months into the government, yes, with turbulence, yes, with actions that don't want democracy of the well-being of our people, we have managed to stabilize our economy, and we're starting to change institutions so that we can be on par with Mercosur. And Mercosur has to understand that we are an ally and part of the future. That's why I want to end by saying that we've got very clear what from our Aymara and Quechua people, there's a vision of capitalism for everyone. It's part of the logic. Our indigenous people, the Quechua and Aymara, capital is the way to development. Camirismo. Camirismo expresses abundance. There's no concept of poverty. When you mix and you import ideologies that have nothing to do with your culture, then it turns out that then you just confuse. Camirismo is a vision of abundance. It's a capitalism for everyone. We have to defend 50-50, that is building the country, the economy, and the region, fighting face front against corruption. Green Bolivia, Bolivia for everyone. I want to thank everyone for this moment you've given me as a country. Amongst our nations, we share cultures, families. Also, at some point, we have shared death. My grandfather was part of the Chaco War. He was imprisoned and he lived in Paraguay for 2 years as a prisoner of war. And when he came back to Bolivia with a Paraguayan bullet in his body that stayed with him forever, I was his grandkid. I would go with him and he would get an x-ray and we could always see the bullet as it twisted in his hip. And he always said, Rodrigo, this is the evidence that amongst brothers, never again. Never again. That amongst brothers, we should never again have to face each other like this. Let's only think and growing and developing. He wasn't a man of many words, but he always repeated, Bolivia is the country that never abandons us. And now I'm president of Bolivia. But as a Bolivian, together with Mercosur, we will not abandon Bolivia or Mercosur to have a better future for our nations. Thank you very much.
Palabras.
Ladies and gentlemen, the words of the plurinational state of Bolivia, Rodrigo Paz.
Words of the president of the plurinational state of Bolivia, Mr. Rodrigo Paz.
A continuación, las palabras del ministro de Relaciones Exteriores de la República Federativa del Brasil, Su Excelencia, señor Mauro Vieira.
Next, the words of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Brazil, His Excellency Mr. Mauro Vieira. Presidents of the Republic of Paraguay, our host, Mr. Santiago Peña, Presidents of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, President of the Republic of Argentina, Javier Milei, President of the Oriental Republic of Uruguay, Yamandu Orsi, President of the plurinational state of Bolivia, Mr. Rodrigo Paz, and President of Panama, Mr. Jose Mulino. Everyone, foreign affairs ministers, authorities, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to start bringing a warm word to greet President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva. In a meeting yesterday in Rio de Janeiro, the President Ursula von der Leyen and President Lula, they mentioned that the agreement between Mercosur and the European Union it shows the strength of the democratic world, and it shows the commitment with multilateral orders. We also talked about how it's possible through free trade based on rules. We can have prosperity shared to benefit and concrete benefits for the European nations and for the people of South America. Ladies and gentlemen, the agreement that we're signing today in Asunción establishes, in fact, an agreement between our both nations with huge potential, economic potential for our people, and at the same time with a deep sense of geopolitics for our nations. We are launching the basis for a long-lasting relations between our different hemispheres, looking to develop the well-being of over 700 million people. The agreement will give us tangible investment, employment, and more integration, more access to goods and services of quality, technological innovation, and economic growth with social inclusion. On the other hand, it has a real strategic dimension for the economic safety of our regions, from the Atlantic south to the North Atlantic. It will contribute to diversify productive change and associations and resources. It will reduce vulnerabilities and increase the predictability that is necessary for growth. The agreement represents a milestone, and we are convinced in the value of democracy and multilateral order in a world that is not predictable and where there is coercion. In an international scenario marked by uncertainty and tension, this agreement sends a clear message to the world, a positive message. We believe in cooperation and dialogue and in solutions based on collective agreements. Trade is one of the mentions of the agreements between the Mercosur and the European Union, based on common values: democracy, rule of law, respect for human rights, and protecting the environment. All of this is well reflected in the agreement that we are signing today. Throughout the long negotiations between the Mercosur and the European Union, especially in the final stages that began in the first months of 2023, it was very clear that there was a commitment of both regions to full integration between trade and sustainable development. The agreement reflects the commitments of our nations with multilateral regimes in the areas of the environment, social, and labor. It brings together the agreement in the same way as a chapter of exceptional significance on trade and gender. This chapter will encourage public policies for inclusion and empowerment of women and girls in each of the countries of our blocs. Ladies and gentlemen, it would be impossible right now, in this moment of celebration, to thank everyone individually. All of those that worked so hard throughout these last 25 years so that this agreement could be signed today. The agreement between Mercosur and the European Union is a collective effort. Now we have the duty and responsibility of making sure that it's well implemented and well balanced. Of what we signed here, I want to wrap up by mentioning the historical dimension of what we are doing today, with a deep sense of mutual respect and a strong sense of strategic autonomy. This agreement marks the commitment of the European nations in South America with the construction of peace, in which every country decides with sovereignty on their prosperity and their destination. I am sure that working together And with the cooperative spirit, we will make sure that this common vision will prevail and will benefit everybody. Thank you very much.
Del ministro.
The words of the Minister of Foreign Affairs from the Federative Republic of Brazil, His Excellency Mauro Vieira. Next, ladies and gentlemen, in their capacity of heads of delegation for the invited countries, the remark by the President of the Republic of Panama, His Excellency José Molino.
The President of the Republic of Panama, His Excellency Mr. José Molino.
Your Excellency, Mr. Santiago Peña, my friend from Paraguay, Your Excellency, Presidents, and dear friends from the member state of the Mercosur, Honorable President of the European Commission, Mrs. Ursula von der, Honorable Mr. Antonio Costa, President of the European Council, Chancellors, and delegations that are with us today. I start my words appreciating this country and their politician conduction to receive us today in this act that will go beyond time and frontiers. I would like to congratulate the team of the Mercosur as well as the equipment of the European Union to confirm this agreement that is in favor for the economic freedom and the exchange of goods without the intervention that was prejudicial for the global economy. The extreme regulation is done from one day to the other, and the agreements that are signed today takes several years. This has an explanation. The economic policies are more balanced to the protectionist and the fear to the free trade. That means competitiveness as taxes and competitive production. I am conscious of the work of the leader of the European Union that need to negotiate with the countries who integrate them and with a different sector of their regional economy. It was a hard work, a wide search for consensus and agreements, that this is not the end of everything but the start of something big for the benefit of all.
Just as a story, I always like to share some stories whenever I get the mic. Last night, while I was having good Paraguayan beef, I said to my friends, look, if we brought those leaders that oppose the South American beef, if we bring them to sit at the table, or we take them to Montevideo, or to the Pampas of Argentina, or the Mato Grosso of Brazil, if we give them a good barbecue, a good grill, they will be the ones that will want to import these delicious beefs to enjoy it from time to time, together with those great European wines that they produce that we all love. This giant block of producers makes quality food with good practices, best practices, in a competitive way, and it is the baseline for good food and nutrition without the lab trials that seek to replace what exists here abundantly. I also want to state in this ceremony, where we have our dear Ursula von der Leyen president, that she has been a key ally for the region. And I'm saying this as president of a country that started to leave the unfair lists during which for years and years we were included in, even though we had worked so hard to leave the lists. You were a key part of this, and we thank you, Ms. Ursula. With great efforts together, in very few months, we moved forward even more than in the last years with a firm commitment to reestablish open dialogue with a country that is part of the Security Council, the UN, and that has been a defender of liberty, democracy, and freedom, as is Panama. We can't forget Venezuela and the urgency for a democratic government to be part of it. It's a great nation that would give a lot to the region. Panama is a firm believer of multilateralism, of world open trade, and the freedom, economic freedom. We believe in the respect of democratic elections because that was what made us all come to the presidency in our different nations. We always share our logistics and our geographical position. That is our big interest. I mentioned it to all of the colleagues today. Panama is there to give and to collaborate. We are the hub of the Americas. Between Panama and the member nations of Mercosur, there are 576 flights per week to 42 cities of the different nations that all connect efficiently with the Caribbean, with Central America, and with North America through Panama. Also with Europe, several daily flights from Panama to France, Germany, etc. On the other hand, we have a logistics strength through our channel, and the Panamanian ports are growing. We have 2 of the 4 largest ports of Latin America, and we are highly competitive in logistics and transportation. Yesterday, I was looking at numbers, and 2025, we wrapped with 9.9 million containers. I want to be clear. We are not a competitor. We are a complement of all of you, so that your products can make it to the most diverse markets, increasing competitiveness and foreign trade of the countries here today. As member states of the Montevideo Agreement, allowing for Panama and the South, there's a flexibility of signing agreements. Our country moved forward with the Republic of Brazil in an initial proposal for a future negotiation on the base of trade that was favorable for both nations, bearing in mind the asymmetries, of course. The agreement has prospered because we agreed on tariffs with concrete tariffs and phytosanitary measures and customs measures that will guarantee the traceability, efficiency in favor of bilateral trade and the health of both nations. We foresee that the terms of reference may be signed in the form of CAF at the end of this month, January 28th, in the city of Panama, where I invite everyone to come to strengthen the economy of Latin America. Besides all of this, we are proud to be associated to Mercosur. Thank you. I want to say that even beyond the fact of this type of events that are a decision of foreign policy that I handle because I'm the president constitutionally, I do this, I ran a risk. And it was to take this agreement to our Congress, to Parliament, because of course I cannot control politically. We visited the executive through trade and agriculture, president of Congress, and the 2 presidents of the different committees. We visited every province of the country, and the agreement was approved unanimously by our Congress. This gives it legitimacy through time, which is important. I don't know who will come after me. But today, Mercosur is a law in Panama, and that's life insurance. We will continue supporting and working for agreements that will broaden the liberty and will reduce the excessive regulations that only burden trade along the way. The world deserves less barriers and more channels that communicate us, less dry borders and more hubs that connect us to a prosperous economy for all our nations. Thank you very much.
De esta forma, las
The words of the President of the Republic of Panama, His Excellency José Mulino.
We had the words of His Excellency, the President of Panama, Mr. José Mulino.
se invita a los señores presidentes y jefes de delegación.
Now we invite the President and Chief of Delegation, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, to stand up
Now that we invite the presidents, heads of delegations, and
to see the
ministers of
signing
foreign
of the
affairs to please
association
stand
agreement.
to witness the signing of the agreement.
En el presente acto se llevará a cabo la suscripción de los siguientes acuerdos. Acuerdo de asociación entre el Mercado Común del Sur, la República Argentina, la República Federativa del Brasil, la República del Paraguay y la República Oriental del Uruguay y la Unión Europea y Estados miembros.
The signature of the European Union and the Republic of Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, Brazil, and the member states.
Y el acuerdo interino de comercio entre el Mercado Común del Sur y la Unión Europea. Se invita a continuación al comisario de Comercio y Seguridad Económica de la Unión Europea, señor Maros Šefčovič, y al ministro de Relaciones Exteriores, Comercio Internacional y Culto de la República Argentina, su excelencia Pablo Quirno.
Next, we invite the Commissary of Trade and Economic Security of the European Union, Mr. Maros Šefčovič, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Trade of the Republic of Argentina, His Excellency Pablo Quirno.
El presente acuerdo de asociación se suscribe con el respeto de los principios democráticos, los derechos humanos y las libertades fundamentales establecidas en la Declaración Universal de los Derechos Humanos y en otros instrumentos internacionales en materia de derechos humanos de los que son parte, así como de los principios de Estado de Derecho.
This partnership agreement is signed under respect for democratic principles, human rights, and fundamental freedoms as established in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as in other international instruments on human rights to which the parties are signatories, as well as for the principles of the rule of law.
Este importante acto, la ceremonia de firma del acuerdo de asociación entre el Mercosur y la Unión Europea. Gran Teatro José Asunción Flores del Banco Central de la República del Paraguay.
This important agreement is signed today in the Theater José Asunción Flores of the Central Bank of Paraguay.
Cabe señalar que el acuerdo tiene como objetivo establecer un marco que constituya la base de la asociación, reforzar el diálogo político a través de nuevos mecanismos de cooperación entre las partes, destinadas a contribuir a la consecución de los objetivos generales del presente acuerdo.
It should be noted that this agreement aims to establish an
Institutional framework that constitutes the basis of the partnership to strengthen political dialogue through new institutional mechanisms and cooperation between the parties, intended to contribute to the achievement of the general objectives of this agreement.
La firma de este documento a cargo del comisario de Comercio y Seguridad Económica de la Unión Europea, señor Maros Šefčovič, y el ministro de Relaciones Exteriores, Comercio Internacional y Culto de la República Argentina, su excelencia Pablo Quirno.
The signing will be by Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security of the European Union, Mr. Maros Šefčovič, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Trade of the Argentine Republic, His Excellency Pablo Quirno.
Fuertes los aplausos, señoras y señores.
Round of applause.
A continuación se invita al señor ministro de Relaciones Exteriores de la República Federativa del Brasil, señor Mauro Vieira.
Next, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Federative Republic of Brazil, Mr. Mauro Vieira.
El presente acuerdo tiene por objetivo el aprovechamiento de instrumentos de cooperación innovadores existentes o futuros que puedan aportar valor añadido a la relación, la expansión y la diversificación de las relaciones entre los países, entre las partes.
This agreement seeks to use existing and future innovative cooperation instruments that may add value to the relationship to expand and diversify interregional trade relations between the parties in order to increase economic growth, gradually improve the quality of life in both regions, and enhance the integration of both regions into the global economy.
De esta forma, señoras y señores, la firma de acuerdo de asociación entre países del Mercosur y la Unión Europea.
This is the signing of the partnership agreement between the Mercosur and the European Union.
En representación de la República Federativa del Brasil, su canciller, señor Mauro Vieira.
Representing Brazil, Mr. Mauro Vieira.
Acuerdo de asociación entre el Mercado Común del Sur, la República Federativa del Brasil y la Unión Europea y Estados miembros.
Signing the partnership agreement between the Southern Common Market and the European Union and its member states.
Firma el comisario de Comercio y Seguridad Económica de la Unión Europea, señor Maros Šefčovič. Y el señor ministro de Relaciones Exteriores de la República Federativa del Brasil, señor Mauro Vieira.
The signature, once again, was by Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security of the European Union, Mr. Maros
Un fuerte
Šefčovič.
aplauso, señoras y señores. De esta forma, la firma del documento respectivo. A continuación, se invita al ministro de Relaciones Exteriores de la República Oriental del Uruguay, su excelencia Mario Lubetkin.
Next, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Oriental Republic of Uruguay, His Excellency Mario Lubetkin.
Acuerdo interino de comercio entre el Mercado Común del Sur y la Unión Europea. La firma del presente acuerdo permitirá mejorar la competitividad de sus empresas, proporcionándoles el marco jurídico previsible para sus relaciones comerciales y de inversión, prestando especial atención a las microempresas y a las pequeñas y medianas empresas.
The interim agreement of trade between the Mercosur, or Southern Common Market, and the European Union will make it possible to improve the competitiveness of their enterprises by providing them with a predictable legal framework for their trade and investment relations, with special attention to microenterprises and small and medium-sized enterprises.
Firmando en representación de la República Oriental del Uruguay, su canciller Mario Lubetkin.
Mario Lubetkin signing on behalf of the Oriental Republic of Uruguay.
De esta forma, señoras y señores, la firma de estos documentos, teniendo como testigos de honor a los señores presidentes de Naciones Amigas.
The honorable witnesses to the signing of this agreement are the presidents of friendly nations.
Fuertes los aplausos, señoras y señores. A continuación se invita al señor ministro de Relaciones Exteriores de la República del Paraguay, su excelencia Rubén Ramírez Lescano.
Next, the Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Republic of Paraguay, His Excellency Rubén Ramírez Lescano.
Este acuerdo interino de comercio entre el Mercado Común del Sur y la Unión Europea tiene como objetivo desarrollar el comercio internacional y el comercio entre las partes de una manera que contribuya al desarrollo sostenible en su dimensión económica, social y medioambiental.
This agreement aims to develop international trade and other trade between the parties in a manner that contributes to sustainable development in its economic, social, and environmental dimensions, in a way that is coherent with the respective international obligations in these areas and others that uphold such obligations.
Cabe señalar que el acuerdo tiene como objetivo establecer un marco que constituya la base de la asociación, reforzar el diálogo político a través de nuevos mecanismos, la cooperación entre las partes destinada a contribuir a la consecución de objetivos generales del presente acuerdo.
It should be noted that the agreement seeks to establish an institutional framework that constitutes the basis of the association to strengthen political dialogue through new institutional mechanisms in cooperation between the parties.
En representación de la República del Paraguay, el canciller Rubén Ramírez Lescano.
Representing Paraguay, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, His Excellency Rubén Ramírez Lescano.
En esta ceremonia de firma de acuerdos de asociación entre el Mercosur y la Unión Europea.
Signing during this partnership agreement
A
between
continuación, señoras y señores, el intercambio de estos documentos entre el comisario de Comercio y Seguridad Económica de la Unión Europea, señor Maros Šefčovič, y el canciller de la República del Paraguay, señor Rubén Ramírez Lescano. Fuerte los aplausos, señoras y señores. Día histórico. Ceremonia de firma del acuerdo de asociación entre el Mercosur y la Unión Europea. Gran Teatro José Asunción Flores del Banco Central del Paraguay.
This was the exchange of folders between Commissioner Mr. Maros Šefčovič and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Rubén Ramírez Lezcano.
Se invita a los señores presidentes y jefe de delegación, por favor, para una fotografía que perpetúa este importante momento que testimonia la unión de los pueblos
Official
desde la
photograph
capital paraguaya.
for the presidents and heads of delegations.
De esta forma, señores, señoras, los presidentes, jefes de delegación, para esta fotografía que perpetúa este importante momento para estos bloques, Mercosur y la Unión Europea.
This will be the historical photograph of this great day.
Un fuerte aplauso, señoras y señores. Se invita a los señores cancilleres, por favor, a sumarse.
Now, Foreign Affairs ministers.
El salón auditorio se pone de pie
Everyone rises
para aplaudir este momento muy especial de unidad de estos bloques, Mercosur y la Unión Europea. Fuerte los aplausos,
to cheer for
señoras y
this moment.
señores.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, round of applause for this historical moment.
De esta forma se ha cumplido esta ceremonia importante de firma de acuerdos de asociación entre el Mercosur y la Unión Europea.
This is the end of the formal ceremony for the signing of the agreement between the European Union and Mercosur.
Con un fuerte aplauso, señoras y señores, despedimos a los señores presidentes, jefes de delegación y ministros de Relaciones Exteriores que han participado en esta ceremonia de firma de acuerdo de asociación entre el Mercosur y la Unión Europea. Se invita a los representantes de los medios de comunicación, por favor, a acercarse hasta el salón auditorio del Banco Central del Paraguay. A los medios de comunicación, por favor, para participar de la conferencia de prensa. Muchas gracias.
Macarena Duarte. Macarena Duarte de Forbes se encuentra en la sala. ¿Algún otro representante de medio Forbes Paraguay está presente en sala?
de retorno, esa es la computadora del guardia que está centralizando el canal. ¿Qué votar?
Compañeros, gracias por estar. En instantes llega el presidente Santiago Peña. Quien...
Por estar, en instantes estará el presidente Santiago Peña.
La presidenta Úrsula de la Unión Europea, Ursula von der Leyen, y Antonio Costa, presidente del Consejo. Para ser lo más democráticos posibles, hicimos un sorteo y van a preguntar RT, Forbes, Última Hora y Franpress salieron sorteados. Vamos a hacer 2 preguntas para Peña y para el presidente Peña y 2 preguntas para tanto Costa como la presidenta von der Leyen. Ellos ya están llegando y arrancamos. Ellos mismos se van a presentar, van a mencionar sus medios y van a hacer la pregunta. ¿Les parece? Vamos a arrancar las 2 para el presidente Peña y las 2 posteriores para la Unión Europea.
¿Estamos listos?
Are we ready? Ready? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be able to share with you. We want to thank the international press that has arrived all the way to Asunción to be a witness of this historical moment. We want to thank President of the EU, Ursula von der Leyen. We want to thank the President of the EU Commission, Mr. Antonio Costa. We are very happy after 25 years we're signing this historical agreement between Mercosur and the EU. As a Paraguayan, I'm extremely happy. In this same place 35 years ago, the signature of the Treaty of Asunción gave life or gave way to Mercosur, and now here we're signing again, so it's got huge symbolism and relevance. I want to welcome all of you, and we are here for your questions. President Peña, Diana de Clauy for RT Spanish. It's a pleasure to meet you. We have received all types of positive repercussions on the agreement between the EU and Mercosur on behalf of the leaders that represent it, and this is a celebration of multilateralism, but we'd like to know if Mercosur is also open and willing to other types of agreements and treaties with other like BRICS. Yes, absolutely. The countries of Mercosur, the founders and those who are in the process of becoming members have showed huge openness towards the commercial integration and financial integration. Not too far back, we were signing an agreement between Mercosur and Singapore. Now we're signing this historical agreement with the EU, and our work in the integration process is just beginning. We have a free trade agreement with the UAE. We are carefully analyzing an agreement with Japan, with South Korea, as well as the other Asian nations, with huge, intention beyond China, that obviously is a strategic partner for all the countries of Latin America and Mercosur. But we see new horizons with Indonesia, with Vietnam. We're moving forward in an agreement also for economic complementation with Canada. So without a doubt, the countries of Mercosur are convinced that integration, economic integration, collaboration, working together, multilateralism is the right path. We live in turbulent times where the certainties that we had in the past are no longer there, and that makes us be even more ambitious in the horizons that we want to get to. That is why this agreement with the EU comes at the right time, because the signs that we are giving go far beyond just an economic and trade agreement, and with the cultural and political benefits that it entails. It is a sign that we're sending out to the world that today is fearful for this commercial or trade battle, and we're saying, here we are. This is a big step towards economic integration among two regions with a great future. Lía Duarte from Última Hora, Paraguay. For President Peña, what message is for you the absence of Lula da Silva and the parallel celebration of this agreement in Rio de Janeiro? It's a bittersweet, sadly. It's bittersweet because we cannot say we don't know, that we're not aware. It wouldn't be fair in not acknowledging the leadership that President Lula has had throughout in leading the negotiations forward. But he has really pushed pushed forward. He has shown great energy. And today I can say that this agreement wouldn't be signed today if it weren't for the work and the dedication of President Lula da Silva. We would have loved to have him here. Sadly, he did not come, but in no way does that damper this great moment. President Lula is a personal friend. I have a strong relationship with him. We tried for him to come, but because of the agenda, sadly he wasn't able to come. It's no secret. Lula Silva starts this 2026 with a electoral agenda. He'll run for the presidency again, and he's very actively working and doing what Brazil's not just a country, it's basically a continent. So in this sense, I prefer to be an understanding person. I want to thank him for the work that he has done, and of course say that, as we had said, that we deeply regret his absence, but that's it. There's nothing more than that. Thank you. Macarena Duarte from Forbes, Paraguay, for the EU representatives. In concrete numbers, with regards to the impact that this agreement would generate in exports and imports and generation of employment, do we have numbers of the impact? Sí, tenemos estimaciones que dicen que para el 2040 las exportaciones a la Unión Europea deberían crecer por 9.000 millones de euros. Eso es bastante sustancial y también se entiende después de que escuchamos las presentaciones de qué conlleva el acuerdo Mercosur-Unión Europea. Abre las puertas, abre posibilidades, oportunidades para la innovación, para la inversión. A medida que vamos acordando sobre estándares y normas, es un empuje muy positivo de poder hacer más juntos. Por ende va a haber inversiones en maquinaria, químicos, aquí en Latinoamérica, de la Unión Europea. Y esto explica cómo los expertos están calculando este aumento enorme en prosperidad económica. Y hablamos de 9.000 millones más para el 2040. Good afternoon. Martin Raczynski. Martin for French Press, for the representatives of the EU. I want to ask you what you think of the recent announcement of US President Donald Trump of applying tariffs on some countries of Europe, and do you think that this agreement
podría tener algún tipo de efecto en ese anuncio o no? Gracias.
Vale, hoy estamos aquí en un momento histórico, es muy importante, y muy felices. Presidente Santiago Peña, estamos aquí no solo
just to sign the creation of the largest to send a message that is very clear to the world. Now what is necessary is not conflict, but we need peace. We don't need more conflict between nations, but we need cooperation. Which is fundamental is to defend always the right, international law, wherever it may be it in Russia. If Russia invades Ukraine, then we have to rise to defend the territorial integrity and the sovereignty, international law in Ukraine. If the human rights are violated in Venezuela, we have to stand up to defend human rights in Venezuela. If we want prosperity, we have to open the markets and not close them. We have to create integration zones and not increase tariffs. What we can say is that the EU will always be very firm in the defense of international law, no matter where it be. And of course, starting with the member states of the EU. Right now, I'm talking for the member states of the EU on this issue. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.